That
Okay, now.
that's it. That's it. It's working now.
Nice. Finally.
I don't know what happened before. I clicked the wrong button, obviously, and
Mm.
heaven help us if somebody in a power station somewhere clicks the wrong button, or somebody in an airplane flicks the wrong switch,
No,
or
no.
something. God knows God knows what's going to happen. How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm
Oh,
good.
okay.
But I'm good, but I'm not good. Like, I'm good. Life is good, but on an energy level, I'm not good. Like, with everything that's going on, I'm not good.
I have that as well sometimes. I've noticed that during the day, my energy levels take a dip sort of mid-afternoon. I'm able to keep my energy level pumped up and going. And then, what happens is through the Anchor system with other podcasts, people want to co-host with me, and it's always in the evening when I just, they always want to call me around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening where I'm just about to drop dead.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I feel guilty that I can't put all my energy into something. But I know I had that this morning actually as well. Actually, normally I have energy in the morning, but this morning I spent half an hour wandering around the flat going, I've got no energy. I've got no, and that
Yeah,
didn't
well,
happen.
I feel like it's almost like I don't know what it is, but even like an emotional energy drain for some reason. It's like I feel, I don't want to say hopeless because that's not the word, but I feel such division, I guess, and that is like really bothering me.
Well, there's a really interesting word, division.
Mm-hmm.
What is? I mean, what does that conjure in your mind? Because that's like that's like being pulled apart. That's like separation
Yeah,
of something, right?
yeah,
So does
yeah.
that mean I don't know, because I know with the work that you do through like relationships and stuff, it must be pretty draining sometimes to be working.
No,
Huh?
no, it's not even that. I think it's just the world. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, like I feel like politics and scrolling through Facebook, I see such controversial things, and
Mm-hmm.
people. I think my biggest thing is people are putting out crap before finding facts, and that really irritates me to the point where I find myself pointing out facts to them, and then I'm like, why am I wasting my energy on this? Why? Because nothing I say is going to change their mind because of whatever their beliefs are, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. People don't change their direction unless they have an accident, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the way that it works. Who was it? The Paulo Coelho. How do you spell his name? The Alchemist author. How do I pronounce that?
I'm not
The
sure.
author of The Alchemist. Like he was in prison, right? And he had like a traumatic experience, and then through his traumatic experience, he was able to, transfer that into writing. Stephen King, the author, had an accident, and after his accident, he was able to, to transfer his experiences into writing. So that the traumatic experiences change people. I was listening to oh my, I've got a problem with people's names, especially when it's not written the way it's pronounced. I can never get it
Yeah.
right. Brandon Burchard, is it? He's a motivational speaker in the style of Tony Robbins. And I was listening to some of his work this morning, and he was talking about how his life changed after a car accident. Right.
Yeah.
So people don't change unless, something extreme happens to them that forces that change.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience anyway, I think that trying to get people to change is like, it's like leaning against a building and trying to push it, you just get tired.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah,
I
and
that
that would
self
be half my energy drain right there. Even if I'm not trying to make it or show the facts, I'm still gets me. Like, I was all last night because of one simple post on Facebook, and I was like, it's just not right. You know, like, there's such garbage being put out there that is making people believe a certain thing. And I guess it's my own opinion, maybe, I don't know, but I'm very fact-based. Like, I don't believe something until I have proof that it is a certain way, you know?
Well, I've taken to it was doing a drum roll or something, because I've got big reveal here. Big reveal here is that I do not read most of what anybody posts on my Facebook or my YouTube channel, because I can't take it. I just can't. My philosophy is that I've got my own things to be doing, and I'm going to be doing them, and I do not want to spend my day with other people's thoughts inside my head, because that just screws things up in a like a volcano erupting underneath me, and I don't need that. Nobody needs that. And
well, I agree, because we got our own that are enough, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, I did a little bit of self-study on why I'm triggered in certain ways by certain kinds of ideas and information, and also what I would call my own inability to rationally accept criticism. And this does not mean the criticism is justified.
Yeah.
It just means my inability to accept the fact that somebody has an idea that they believe is right. Yeah.
Right.
And separate that from my own knowledge that I know it's not correct. Yeah. And I just have a massive problem with that, and it's just
we all do, really. Like, if you're put down to your truth is your truth. So, and everybody's truth is maybe different, right? We're not all the same. So
yeah,
because I was thinking, as you were saying that, I was like, oh, my husband is just like that. But then when I think about it, I'm actually like that too. You know, if I know something is black, it's black. It's not, you can't tell me it's gray or it's charcoal. It's black. You know.
Oh yeah, that's rationality. Yeah, that's all the enlightened principles that we have in the modern age, come from this idea that we can base our opinions on facts, things that are grounded in a stable or standard form of reality. The grass is going to be green, right? The sky is going to be blue or dark gray, depending upon which country you live in. But there's this other element as well. It's the door we fear to open, right? And it's you tell the children, like, don't go into the room. You're just inviting them to go and search for what's there or not there, right? It's just that curiosity anyway that doesn't seem to bother. I've noticed it doesn't seem to bother children, but adults, it's a completely different matter. There are doors that we fear to open. Yeah. And I think that very often we're not going to admit it to ourselves that we fear to open them, but we do. We do. And I'm sort of caught in that with myself, where you have to open those doors that you fear to open. You have to go down those roads. You have to experience some kind of limit. You have to know what's beyond the border. You have to know what's over the horizon, and because things, I don't think you can grow. I don't think you can improve, because I think you sort of block yourself, because I don't believe that you can. I don't believe that you can see in other people that which you have not discovered in yourself first.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that there's, the world's a big place and there's so much happening, and we're blinded by so much of our own experiences and prejudice that we need to we need to push ourselves to a limit at certain points in time, just to see if we can escape the headspace that we find ourselves in, like I did when I moved from Britain to Slovakia, and I always say that was like moving to live on a different planet, right? Yeah. That was all my reference points disappeared or vanished within 24 hours, and that the language was different, the habits were different, the food was different, the lifestyle was different, the social expectations were different, and that's a mind fuck, right?
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And that's what sent me down a path of self-discovery and realization, and beginning with asking questions, because if on one side of this imaginary line that we call a border, this is really important, and on the other side, nobody gives a flying monkey. And what's true? What's right? Because if I stand here and I speak this language to these people, they're all like, "Yay!" And if I stand there and say the same thing, people think I'm insane. So what is the reality? And I think that people who haven't had that experience, or people who try to take their culture with them wherever they go, sort of never really get it, like the sort of the British expat community, where everywhere we go we take a little bit of England with us and we plant it in a land, and we've got our flags and we wave them, and long live the Queen and all those things. And they miss the whole point, which is that it's not the same everywhere. The same way as people are not the same, relationships are not the same, no two conversations are ever really the same. So it's
definitely interesting.
Yeah, so landing in a different country just gave me this sort of completely reverse look on life, and it led to me asking a lot of questions about myself and how I'd filled my head with irrelevant, as the English would say, tosh, right? Just irrelevance. Like I had all this cultural information. Let's take a crazy example. Like I know the names of like all the football teams in England or something, or like I knew the name of James Bond films or something like that, right? And this was kind of irrelevant where I landed. It's like you share this information with people, and you want to talk about it, and you can't. You have to find another kind of common ground that relates, and you have to find it on their terms, not your terms.
Right. Yeah.
Their terms, if you want to be respected, and I don't think that like I always say you don't need to travel around the world to understand how everything is or works, but there is something which gives people a broader perspective, and for me it kind of it woke me up, right? It woke me up, and I have this question in the back of my mind, right? How did you connect me to Alex Jones?
How did I connect you to Alex?
She sent me a message which said that there was a message with his name in it. Yeah.
I think the link to InfoWars was on your profile, I believe. I think that's
Oh, well, that would be a really easy way to explain it. Okay.
My psychic abilities.
I've had weird conversations with people who've told me like all about my life, and they don't know me at all. And this was before Facebook existed, and that's just really scary stuff. Anyway, I had an anchor call with somebody like about 4 weeks ago, and they described to me almost everything that happened in my life.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, how did you know all? They said, I bet you did this and this and this. And I said, yeah, I did all of those things. How did you know? And they were like, I don't know. I just have this talent. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's definitely a talent.
There's,
but that's just my opinion.
there's more that we don't know than what we do know. Anyway, the reason why I mentioned Alex Jones is because Alex Jones woke me up, right?
Oh, nice.
That's all I can say about that is that you need someone to shake you up and give you perspective and to make you think, just to make you think.
Yep.
About things because we've all.
That's important.
Oh yeah.
Question everything.
Well, yeah, not just ask questions, but demand answers answers that satisfy you. I had a coaching session just an hour ago with a young guy, and I'm like, it's okay to not be happy with the answer that someone gives you. And it's like a just trying to revelation for him. He's like, well, no one said that to me before. And I said, but I'm telling you now, it's okay. You can say to people, I respect you and I respect that opinion, but I don't accept it.
Yeah.
It's okay to do that, and people think that they have to compromise with everything and accept everything, and it's like no, you can live within your own power as a person if you learn to respect the fact that people are different and they're going to have different opinions. And I was giving him this example of like I was in a lawyer's office and we were discussing a contract with people, and they were saying, okay, so do you accept these elements of this agreement? I said, absolutely not. And they're like, we can't progress. And I said, why can't we progress? Because you don't accept it. And I said, but look, I respect you and I will sign this because I know there's no other road, right?
Yeah.
And I know we need to make progress. But I in no way agree with this. I think it's completely wrong, but if the only way to progress is for me to acquiesce in the situation, otherwise everyone's blocked, everyone's stopped, and everyone's unhappy, then I'll go along with it because it's just silly to it's just silly to be stupid, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's and people seem to have a problem understanding that it's okay to disagree.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to think that they can, what they say, like, go along to get along, right? But that's just erasing yourself from the picture.
Yeah, well, it's not something that you can humanly do, I think, really. Like, you can, but you're not going to feel good about it. You're going to feel crap and take on that energy.
Well, it'll come back to bite you, right?
Yeah.
It'll come back to bite you eventually, and maybe too late for you to do anything about it. So it's sort of not worth going there in the first place. Once you realize what it is and what your situation and position is on something, and once you take a stand for something, right? It's that just I'll say, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything and maybe everything.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got to hold some kind of facts. You've got to realize the difference between rational fact and rational belief. Both of them help people take steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to know all of the facts. You don't need to know all the facts. don't need to know everything. And for a lot of people, belief for a lot of people will adequately fill in the spaces. I'm not saying it's the best thing ever, but it will work. Look at all the people in church who don't know if God is really there or where He is or whatever. But it fills in the spaces in life. They need it.
Yeah.
It's a requirement for them. So so very often it's not logical, but it does the job.
Yeah. And I guess that's all part of awakening too, right? Like once you awaken, things are different. Some people never do. Some people don't until they're dying. Like everybody's on their own pace. And I think the next time, if it matters, if it doesn't matter, I'll scroll by it. But if it does matter, I'm going to say exactly what you said. That I respect their opinion, but it's not truth to me.
Yeah, if your experience teaches you something different, and then you have to go against your experience, you're like going against yourself, and that's really difficult. But at the same time, we have to realize that intelligent people, when they meet new information, realize that the game changes.
Right.
Yeah, and at any point in time, we can meet anything which rocks us or shocks us or makes us think twice about what it is that we know, because I'm always amazed by any kind of human endeavor and achievement, because it's hard enough getting a few simple thoughts together to get anything like me, like I was this morning. Like I'm walking around for half an hour going, it's not working. I know what I have to do, and then it's like I got this list of things to do, and next on the list was I have to go for a jog, and it's freezing cold outside today, and I was like, I don't want to go outside. I just like, I want to go. It's no. But you know what? I dragged myself out, and after 5 minutes, I was like, where's the problem? Right?
Yeah.
There's no problem. I made a problem for myself by not doing what I promised myself I would do.
Exactly. We are our own worst enemy.
Oh yeah. And this is. I was looking at something on principles of self-attack yesterday, and that's the greatest human downfall is our inability to rise above self-attack. Yeah, because outside of physical violence, all that language is for many people is just an attempt to persuade people to attack themselves. It's a negative kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And you can't, it's like if you have to let them do it. You have to let it happen to yourself. And as long as you're able to rise above it and not self-attack for what you know is the right thing, then you're okay, and you know that you're not going to end up like a social justice warrior, basically, who is just angry at the world and doesn't really know why. It's quite shocking, and we've reached the stage, with you talked about the negative information. We've reached a stage in human history where there has never been so much negativity and so much openly distributed fear that to be attacked instantly if you say the wrong thing. And I gave an example my podcast a few weeks ago where I was like, I lost a major client in my business because they discovered that I supported Trump. Like, I can't work with you. I'm like, what, you can't work with me because I support a different political candidate from you? I mean, I'm like,
Good riddance. Get rid of that client. Oh man.
You support a different football team from me. We drive different types of cars. We live in different towns. Everything about us is different.
Yeah.
This means that you can't work with me? I mean, okay. I'm not going to... I'm not going to fight to keep a client that doesn't want to be a client. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's... I don't know. I don't know. When it comes to all that politics and stuff, I just think there's so much more that we don't know. I think it's coming out though, and I think that's why I don't know, like the fake news, I'm going to say it right out loud because I'm sorry, but I watch all of them because I am very much truth, and they're so biased and they're not even reporting actual news. It's all about Trump, and they're either for him or they're against him. There's nothing about anything else that's going on in the world with like CNN. Fox is equally as guilty because it's all about Trump, you know, even though they do report facts more so, I feel, you know, but it's the same thing. They're so biased and it's just retarded and divisive, and that's what irritates me, you know, like, and especially this whole immigration thing. Like, there's a difference between right and wrong. You do things the right way or you do things the wrong way. And if you risk getting separated from your children, then what kind of parent are you?
Yeah, well, this, the madness is so mad.
It is. It's ridiculous.
The madness is so mad that it doesn't even process the fact that it's mad. I mean, we're living through a digital inquisition. That's what's happening. I mean, this is no different. People are losing their jobs because their companies have blacklists of what political candidate people support in the West.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It's beyond ridiculous. And this quest, and it's, you know, it comes down to the fact that people are not able to process simple facts in their brains anymore. And
they're just followers, like sheep. That's what I call them.
Followers, that's such an interesting point you make there, because you know, to follow it's almost religious, and it's follower, it's meaning there. Yeah, it's like questionable, right?
Yeah, well, and if you do question, if you're not a follower, then you're like the black sheep, right? And like, I know for myself, I've been like that since I was a tiny little girl. And I was the black sheep in my family because I questioned everything. It's just the way I am. It's the way I was built, I think. And, you know, so many people I think there's so many more followers than there is people that just question, you know. And I just wish there was a way to, I guess it will all come out eventually. I just have to have faith in it, but it's very frustrating to me.
Well, I think the way to, it is frustrating. I think the way to look at it is that none of us are going to be here at the end, right?
Yeah, exactly. It don't really matter.
to realize now. We're all here, in there will be a process that happens, and we're going to be around to see where things go in 100 or 200 years. But let me give you 3 examples of basic things that people don't understand. Okay? Or 3 phrases that are commonly used that people just have no concept of, right? Phrase number 1, multiculturalism, right? Multiculturalism, right. Now, culture by definition is mono. It's singular.
Right.
You can't have multiculturalism. It cannot possibly exist as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying that it's like saying big small or black white, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely impossible because culture by definition is a group of people doing the same thing in the same way. Right?
Yeah.
And so the multi, putting that word in front, anybody who uses that term. Now, if you want to say that cities are multicultural, what you mean is that they have groups of different people who all live in their own area and don't communicate with the other people in the other areas. Like, I lived in London for 5 years, and the Greeks had their area, and the Turkish had their area, and the Nigerians had their area, and the Chinese had their area, and the Irish had their area, and you didn't go into the other areas because you'd be killed. Right? So this idea that we can so it seems to me that celebrating diversity is it's a rejection of self. Right?
Yeah.
It's almost like saying I don't matter anymore, and we don't get anywhere unless we realize that I matter. So that's the first one. Okay, the second one is equal opportunity.
Yeah.
A great buzz term from the 1980s. We're an equal opportunity employer, or we have to give equal opportunities to everybody. Well, the concept of opportunity requires a differentiation.
The
opportunity to exist, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, it can't be equal. It just can't.
Mm-hmm.
The term is it's an impossible term. It's all oxymoronic, right? It's madness, and the thing that most people realize is conspiracy theory, right?
Yeah.
Where a conspiracy is actually is legal terminology of a crime. Yeah. Okay. So evidence must exist for the term. Evidence must exist for the crime. And it's actually, you can be convicted of conspiracy, right?
Yeah.
It's a plan with a crime. And theory is an idea or a conjecture. It does not require evidence. So you've got a word requiring evidence and then a second word not requiring evidence.
Mm-hmm.
It's actual impossibility.
Yeah.
It's become common terminology, but the very fact that people use it is to not understand it.
Yeah.
To use that which is useless.
Yeah.
And it is kind of insane.
Mm-hmm.
We've got this sort of anti-empirical approach in the world a lot now, where everything is okay. And I've heard this argument, and this argument is true for me. I don't know what it's like for other people, but when I was growing up, there was very little ethical or moral guidance that I experienced. And I was kind of told that everything is okay, and it doesn't matter. There's no consequences. And this meant, so between the ages of 15 and 20, you could go wild and do whatever you wanted. Nothing really mattered.
Right.
Because there were never any real consequences for what you did, and there were no real rules that were given to you, and it was kind of advertised that you should have as many relationships and partners as possible, because that's because there was no argument for it. It was just, there was nothing against it presented, and that's what everybody was doing. So everybody got involved in multiple relationships and then got screwed up because they were never able to form anything normal with anybody as a result of that. And because my background is in schooling and education, and I did some study of the works of B.F. Skinner and behavioralism, and he was given a special license by the British government to study relationships between young people in Britain in, I think, the 1920s or the 1930s. And he set up a school where people were encouraged to experience multiple relationships. And what happened was that none of them were able to bond with anyone ever for the rest of their lives.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the concept was that if you could persuade a young person at a young age to experience multiple relationships, trend would continue forever.
Right.
And there's rough documentation about it. It's pretty hard to find. I think it was easier to find like at the beginning of when the internet started than it is now, because there's now like so much data that it's becoming pretty hard to. You have to look in the right place to look looking for, but getting to that spot is a bit complicated.
We got to sift through all the other stuff too.
Not only that, I was working last week doing podcast stuff with a guy in America. And his podcasts and his information is blocked in Europe.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
And I've been searching. I search his name and his podcast. Does not exist. 0 hits on Google.
Yeah.
Right, but he has a podcast, and it's on iTunes, and he sends it out to people, and it's quite popular where he lives in the state that he lives in.
What does he podcast about? It's got to be politics or religion.
Well, it's the MGTOW movement, the men going their own way. Yeah, because the rejection of feminism as the road forward, basically. Right, it's about
they must consider it hate, some kind of hate speech or something.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's sort of the rejection of third level feminism, where men get taken for everything because the men are not prepared, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess it's a bit of a victim role, but
preparing.
I don't know. I do think, in a way, just my opinion, I think the whole feminist role has gone a little crazy, but that's just my opinion. I'm kind of old school. I think women should stay home and raise their kids. So maybe will that make me a bigot or something? I don't know.
Well, look, it's not that it misses the point, which is the single most important job in the world is the raising of children.
Yeah.
And energy and time need to be directed towards that, and directed by the mother specifically towards their children. And I
think if you choose to not have children and you want to work, then you should be whatever. But there's a lot of places that women are not equal to men, and strength to me is one of them. It's the way we're built. Some women are strong, but are they like there's some things that a man is a man, so why not let the man be the man? Why do you got to be a woman and a man?
Yeah, I mean, it's misunderstanding the sort of the yin and the yang balance that needs to exist. My approach is a holistic approach, right? So that everything has a dark and light side to it, and within the holistic concept of human nature, you need the man on one side and the woman on the other side as this eternal balance. The same way within each person, you put a light side and a dark side, and there's this tussle and this struggle to always keep things good and keep things right and keep things true and keep things honest. And so these two elements need to be there. Otherwise, everything would be one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
You would agree, and we wouldn't have anything.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I think. I don't know. I'm all for controversy. That's the same as like the whole immigration thing. It just not the stuff that's going on in the States, but just immigration. Period. Like the movements, all the different movements and things, and it's like the pure fact is we're all immigrants. We all came to this country. Our grandparents, great grandparents came to. You know what I mean? Like especially Canada was not founded. It's only 100 whatever. I don't even know. 100 years old. Couple 110. I don't even know. But that's when they found it. So somebody took the land from somebody, and it just doesn't make any sense to fight over it. We're here. Let's get along. Let's deal with life, and let's do what's best for everybody. And unbalanced, right? Like, everybody has to have a certain view, or like you said with the cultures, it's so multicultural that we're divided to a point where this doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah, the immigration thing is just it's an attempt to play on people's emotional perspectives and feelings. Here's my perspective on it. I have lived as a Scottish person. I have lived in Slovakia for 20 years. I imagine there are probably in Slovakia 20, maybe 10, maybe 5, maybe only 5 Scottish people who have lived here as long as me, right? In the entire country. Do I consider myself a minority in need of help? Well, fuck no, right? Right. I've never claimed unemployment benefit. I've always, for the first couple of years, I worked for other companies and I set up my own business, and I've always done that. I don't need any help, right? And I'm not saying that as something. I'm not saying that as a form of rejection. I'm just saying that's what the path that I've chosen. Yeah. And this idea that help people before they do anything at all, it's like, no, I think everything in life must be earned. Trust must be earned, honesty must be earned, friendship must be earned, love must be earned. You've got to do the right things. Otherwise, people will just take everything for granted and not appreciate anything at all. The same way that when people buy something, they tend to appreciate it more than if they get it for free. They tend to value the thing more because there's work involved, there's labor involved in actually getting something. So I'm a great believer in shaking up things, right? I'm a believer that if we closed all the schools tomorrow, it wouldn't bother me, right? It wouldn't bother me. We'd have to reorganize stuff, but so what, right? We change from horses to cars, right? So I don't see too big an issue there, because we're adaptable as a society, and we can ourselves. So I'm just let people create their own value. Person go out and create value in society, and we'll see what the result is. And as a person, for about 2 years when I lived in London originally, I claimed government support and benefit from the government. And when I lived there at the time, I thought, this is great. They can help me with the housing, they can give me a place to live, I get money for food. Now looking back on it, it was the worst thing that ever, right? I was not motivated to get out and do something and make a change. There wasn't that grit, that bite, that dog, as they say, to fight and struggle, because Martin Luther King said it: without struggle, there's no progress, right? And that's in all walks, in all areas of life. Unless there's that element of hard work involved, there's no reward. You can't reward people for doing nothing, because they'll just do more of nothing. And
doing nothing doesn't feel good either. It does for a little bit, but then it wears off. I freak out when nothing is, when it's like nothing. That's 2 hours of space. Oh no! It's like, I know people who can, like, I'm going on holiday. It's summer. I'm going on holiday. Going to lie on the beach for a week. I'm like, that would kill me. Right? So I get working hard and getting the reward for doing that stuff and whatever. But I think that we need to take
actions in life to understand, how the world is and how the world works, and
Yeah.
and I, I I believe that we learn from doing things. We do it,
Yeah.
we try it, we learn, then we go on to something else, even if it's something ridiculous. We have to try and do it and learn from it. And stagnation, I don't think we stagnate. We go backwards. When we stop progressing, we regress, like those pensioners who stop work and then the mind just stops working. Right?
Yeah. Well, it does to like a mode or something. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, well, they lose the responsibilities that they had. Yeah, and when you lose responsibilities, there's not this great feeling you have when you have to make decisions and make choices that matter in people's lives, and you just you fade, right?
Yeah.
You just fade in things like some kind of old picture that's lost its color. It's not. It's not the right way to go, and that's why we all have to find work which is meaningful, which is purposeful, which is intentional for us in life in order to get something. None of which was told to me by any careers advisor when I was young, right?
Yeah.
Nobody ever said to me, okay, you need purpose and intention, and think about your motivations and. I remember thinking when I was way back when I was in high school. I remember asking a friend of mine what he wants to do after school, and he said he wanted to go and study travel and tourism. Yeah. And I remember thinking, oh, that's kind of interesting. He said, what do you want to do after that? I said, oh, maybe I'll open a travel agency. And I said, oh, okay. And what you going to do with that? And he said, well, if I have a travel agency, I'll be able to have all these cheap holidays and travel all over the world and do all these things. And I remember thinking, oh, okay. He's got a good plan there.
Yeah.
Like, right, so if you can serve other people and serve yourself and your own needs at the same time, it's
definitely a good thing. I know my husband was yesterday we were chatting, and he says he's thinking about switching jobs. He's been doing the same thing for 7 or 8 years, and he's starting to kind of think he needs to do more. And I said, he's like, I don't know, what should we do? What can we do? We need to open a business that'll make money. And I'm like, what are you passionate about? And he's like, I don't know, making people smile, making people happy. And I'm like, well, how can you do that to make money? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, you need to think about it. What is it that you're passionate about? Because I think making people happy and making people smile is great, but I'm thinking more of like a physical thing. What is it that makes you happy? And he's like, I don't really know. And I'm like, you're 41 years old, you don't know? Like, there's got to be something. Because I know for me, it's different because I'm doing what I'm passionate about. So I'm okay. Like, I'm happy and it sustains my income and it's good. It's not enough to be, high on the hog, but I'm happy with enough to pay my bills. I'm okay with that, But he's the opposite. He wants the $1 million company that is going to give him all this stuff, ego boost, right? And I'm like, what's your passion? And he can't even tell me that.
Yeah, it's
like, and sometimes I think, why in the heck are we together? And at the same time, I'm like, maybe him something, right? To help him find that passion.
Well, yeah, and maybe the answer's in the future. You don't, maybe the answer comes at some point in time. In terms of human relationships, you're never 100% sure of how things are going to work out.
He says to me, I'll open an ice cream store. That'll make people happy. And I'm like, well, there you go. At least it's a thought in somewhat of a direction, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can you can do simple things like that and have great success.
Yeah.
It's complicated. We, we, I don't know if it's society or people or men, I don't know. We sometimes overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
And it need to be so difficult. You know, it's everything we need somewhere. We have to look in the right places. And it doesn't matter who we are or where we are. We all have the same basic problems to deal with. We've all got 24 hours in a day, right?
Yeah.
We need to sleep. We need to eat. We need to have a bit of relaxation. We need to do something purposeful. We need to communicate with people. And so if we look at our day, I think in terms of those food, something, at least one thing in each day which is a challenge that takes us forward, and sometimes we need our friends and our partners to challenge us, and we look at the rest of the time as, you know, what is our passion, you know, what can we do that's intentional and helpful about us. And I think if you, I think we can, when we focus on money. I mean, I've never had money as a main focus in my life. I've been aware of it, but I'm never a person that's counted everything, right? I sort of aggregate with money. I'm aware roughly of how much I'm making and roughly how much I need and roughly how much should go where, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if there's a little bit more or a little bit less, it doesn't make a big difference to me. For me, a lot of the time, millionaires tend to be people that are, you know, counting every cent or every penny, right?
Yeah.
Get to that point. It's like, no, you're missing the point if you get to that point.
Well, that's just it. Then it's just more shit for your kids to deal with when you die. Really. That's how I look at it anyway.
Absolutely. That's you don't want to hand down a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to hand down as few problems as possible, okay? Because there are going to be some things that we have to deal with, so one way or another. But you want to smooth the path in that area for your children. You want your children challenges, but you don't want to make their life more difficult, right?
Yeah.
It's already difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if you don't get the right start, then you spend a lot of time playing catch.
Yeah.
You're maybe people like me and you who realize that there were some issues in our past and we realize that we have to deal with it. We spend a lot of fucking time in self-reflection and working on why things are the way they are, just so we can play catch up, right?
Yeah. And I think other people don't, you know, like I said, everybody's on their own journey, and it's hard to sometimes find a balance, you know, when you're even if your journey is similar, but your awakening is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know for my hubby, he's coming around. I mean, he's getting better, but at the same time, it's something that we both have to work on, because he probably just gets mad sick of me and my reflections, because he doesn't think that way at this point, right? He just does what he does, and it is what it is. But he has an opinion, right? Like, if you pry it out of him, he does. But he's not, maybe just a man thing. I don't know. But it's good, I think. But it's frustrating at the same time, right?
Well, yeah, it's men kind of form this harder outer shell, which makes it difficult to dig deeper. And the longer you go without digging, the kind of harder it gets to get down to those drivers and those passions. And hopefully in the world, people are having more of those conversations. Like, you know what I see on I see on the internet, because I do a lot of conversational work with people, so I'm always looking for conversation starters, different ways to approach conversations, and different ideas. So you type into Google, must ask questions for boyfriend or girlfriend, or relationship questions you must ask, or first date questions, or things like that, right? And you get these huge, I've seen things like 500 questions you need to ask your partner. Fucking hell, I go through it and I've done about 5 of those. Right?
Yeah. I actually wrote up like an interview. I think I put it on my blog, but I'm not sure. I did, because I was thinking one day, I was like, people need to almost interview their partner. And so I wrote down whatever questions I thought, and it only actually was, I think, 8 questions is all it was. And I don't have them in front of me, so I don't remember exactly what they are, but they're surrounding around values and beliefs and stuff like that, the stuff that's important to know whether you're going to have issues. And then you can discuss, is this going to be like a deal breaker down the road? Because you don't think about that stuff until you're about a year or 2 into the relationship, and the person starts showing who they actually are and what they believe and what they value. And then you're going, you've changed. And it's got nothing to do with anybody changing. They're just being themselves, but you didn't take the time to learn who they were, And if somebody can't answer those questions, then it's even worse, especially if you can, right? Then you're kind of like, oh no, then you could be in for anything, right?
I wish there was a button that I could press that would skip the first year of the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because there's all this tentative surface stuff going on, right?
Oh, for sure.
It takes a while to dig down deeper into who someone really is, and these hormonal elements and emotions mixed up in the first 3 to 6 months as well. I mean, people can be a real roller coaster ride for people, and
oh, for sure.
and then you've got to kind of settle down and set some ground rules and do some groundwork and
boundaries. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and people need to know what those boundaries are. Like me, my kids know what the boundaries are, so why wouldn't it be any different in any other relationship? Not that you have to treat them like a child, but they need to know these are things, and that comes down to beliefs and values, right? If you have values of security, one of your boundaries is going to be that you're not going to marry somebody that's a gambler, or something. Like, there's certain boundaries you have to have, and you have to know your boundaries, because a lot of people don't even know what their boundaries are until they've been crossed, and then they let them, they let people push their boundaries. And as soon as you let somebody push it, well, then why aren't they going to keep? Just like children, again, right? Your kids will push you until you actually stand up and do something, or you don't. And if you don't, then they'll do it again the next time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't present your boundaries to somebody, there's always a danger that later on they could turn around and say, I didn't know.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And
then, then you're left with a loss, right? Yeah. Which is how could you, the only response is how could you possibly not know, which is not a response, because it's your job to make the other person realize what your boundaries are.
That's right.
Yeah. And to know what they are. Look, we understand the complex nature of human relationships because we have contracts, right?
Yeah.
We have contracts, and the contracts are complex, and they try to state clearly what the responsibilities are of both sides and what people will accept and not accept, and so we have this with the financial things we do, with our house, with our flat, with our car, with things that we buy, and yet we don't take the same care and attention to apply this to our relationships. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, like I'm not saying that we need. I'm not saying that you need a contract if you're going to marry someone, but I'm saying you need to talk about it.
Oh, for sure. You need to be on the same page, at least in the same book. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like I've got
a
I,
chapter maybe would be even better.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting how many people don't, like, I know for myself, even like up until, you know, well, even with this relationship, but I didn't set boundaries clearly, and I was under the love spell, I call it, and I let things go that shouldn't have been let
not,
go, and now 7 years later, I'm dealing with those repercussions because I let the boundaries be pushed because I didn't know what my boundaries were. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just awestruck by this handsome man and it's not to say it's his fault, it's my fault because I didn't think clearly on, my own value. I think what it really boils down to, because if you value yourself, you're going to be clear with your boundaries and you're going to stick to them.
it's not your fault. It's your mother's fault.
Well, yes,
Because it's your
exactly.
mother's, it's your mother and father's job, and more your mother, because the woman understands woman, right?
Yeah,
So, it's your mother's job to sit you down and say, if you don't have boundaries,
yeah,
things are malleable.
yeah, yeah,
And you're going to be molded and shaped into somebody else's form of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that takes 30 seconds, right?
yeah. Oh, for sure. I do it with my kids. Like my boy is 4.5 years old, and I tell him, you have boundaries. If somebody does something you don't like,
Mhm.
at this point, he has to tell me, but you come and tell mom, and that's mom will enforce your boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same that I talked about with, with respect. You can respect somebody without having to accept everything. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and that's okay. And we don't need to acquiesce to everybody else's need, because
yeah,
we just get lost along the way if we do that, and then
yeah.
we
Well, that's just it. And I think like with my girls, I didn't do, because they're 21 and 19. And I
Mhm.
didn't do that because I wasn't where I am now. I was in a different place. And just the other day, my daughter called me with a problem in her relationship, and I gave her the whole boundary speech. I was like, you have to have them, you have to know what they are, and you have to set them, and you can't waver from them. Because if you do, then shit hits the fan and then you get hurt, and it's all on you. And she's like, oh mom, she's like, that makes perfect sense. She's like, thank you. I'm
Yes.
like, shit, better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. Yes, and how did I miss that before?
Yeah, yeah. And it's so silly because it could have been it could have been catastrophic. Like she was feeling like, it was all her, like she was crazy. And I said, well, you're not crazy, you just haven't set clear boundaries, and so he's pushing them, and you have to stand up and you have to reset them, put them down now. You're young enough, and if it doesn't work, you're young enough, there's lots of suitors out there. So don't, you can't, you're only 19 years old. You got tons of experience left. She's like, but I want him. And I'm like, well, then you have to set boundaries and he has to respect them. And if he can't and he doesn't want to, then he has to go somewhere else. That's just how it works.
Yeah, and you might want him, but do you need him?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing I told her too, is you don't need anyone to make you happy. You have to make you happy. That's all that is important. And you want him, but you don't need him. You can do everything by yourself. They know that, I think, because I raised them as a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a, a relationship to them is kind of, um, I don't know, it's different just because they've seen what I've gone through, I think. So they're not starstruck little girls. They've seen real life. It's not about movies and all the stuff that happens in the movies. They've actually seen real life, so they have a different view, which, and sometimes I'm sad about, but then at the other time I'm like, it hasn't been anything too crazy that traumatized them. It's just enough to give them a clear perspective on what the world is actually like, not the rose-colored glasses, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's still there's a little voice in the back of my head which is saying male role model, right?
Yeah.
Male role model, father figure, and there is this the danger of how do you search for that in your own mind if you're a young woman who's been brought up by a single mother. Now the single mother has to compensate, right? You got to the father, right?
Yeah.
That's rough. Cause being the mother's being the mother. That's what every mother has to do, right? But presenting what is the role of the man in that situation is difficult if there's not a stable man that's there. I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying that there's that they're going to have that issue, but as long as they're aware of the fact that is an issue, then everything can be dealt with.
Yeah.
It's rough because you have to also realize statistics are against them.
Yeah.
In this kind of situation, and when you realize that the statistics are against you, you have to work harder.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do more work. It's not enough. It's not enough to be the same as other people because you haven't had the same advantages as other people. You haven't had the same experiences. You've got to work harder at it. In that kind of situation, if you grow up with lack, you've got to work harder to compensate. For that lack, and it can be done. It's just that people want to fit into society and pretend that everything is all roses, and and a lot of the world is not, unfortunately. And
no, it's not. And I think at the same time, it is what we make it too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I think, like, when I look back to being a single mom, financially it was hard, but the rest, it was actually quite easy. And it was a bit easier than being in a relationship because I just had me and the kids to worry about. There wasn't an added stress of a relationship on top of it. So, I kind of, I don't know, I was a bit of a woman scorned. So I took like just about 10 years of being single. I didn't even want to look at another man. So I kind of had a mindset that, I was just going to solely focus on my children because that was what was important to me. And, so I think there's kind of like, there's the good and the bad, right? The yin and the yang. And I did the best I can. And I think, like, they're good kids, but like you said, they have to work harder because they don't know, number one, what a healthy relationship is. And number two, they have a mistrust of people because of what they've dealt with. Like, all the relationships I did have, I was cheated on and betrayed. So they have this trust issue where they just think men are untrustworthy. And it's not that I don't think I drilled that into their head.
They're going to experience that, really. I mean, that's
oh, goodness sakes. Children. That's what happens when you leave them unattended. I got the butter out of the fridge and he's painting my Nerf gun.
Excellent. At least the butter is in the fridge, right? I mean, I have to search around the flat for the butter sometimes because it's been taken out and used for I don't know what purpose, and I don't even want to know. Things just disappear. The kids try to climb into the fridge and stuff. It's just much nonsense all of the time. which is all a good thing. Which is all a good thing, really. And here's I'm at this point in my life now where I don't understand people who don't want to have children. Right?
Don't want to have children.
I don't get that at all, because my perspective is that the single reason to exist in the world is to go through the experience of having children and bringing them up and loving them and caring for them. I think that's the only reason to be alive, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from and purposes and who are out there doing other great things and supporting people and helping people and doing more than me for society, and that's all. Those are all great things. I don't understand it. I have a problem getting my head around either when I hear people say, I don't want to have kids, or I'm not sure if I want to have kids. It's I can sort of get maybe you're not sure about finding the right person and stuff or what, or whatever. But if you don't have kids, you what is the point of anything? I don't see the point in getting out of bed in the morning if you don't have kids, right?
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
And I think we've got it wrong when we're an adult and we think that it's not. The whole point of existence is to prepare the world so that the next generation can take the next step.
Yeah.
We do this simply through our parenting, and I just kind of everything else pales into insignificance. I think that people's jobs pale into insignificance when you have kids, and it's like, do you want to spend time at work or time with your kids? I mean, surely you want to be with your kids. Surely you don't want to spend more time in work than you do with your kids. I think there's something physically and biologically wrong with people if they don't want to spend time with or around children, in the sense of educating them, helping them grow up, playing games, helping them to learn what it is that they need to learn, having that experience. Because adults are so fucking boring in comparison to children, right?
Oh yeah.
Again and again and again and again and again. Whereas children are just this spark of vitality and energy and life that's just constant creation.
Yeah.
Always something going on, always something happening, always a thought about this or a thought about that, or a realization or an understanding, or getting something wrong or trying to be creative. Always something going on, always want to try something, always asking questions. And then we get to be adults, and it's kind of, you just walk into a room with kids and it's full of energy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can walk into a room full of adults and just, unless they've, had like 5 bottles of wine or something like that. I don't know. But even then, the adults need to have the alcohol to have the fun, right?
Yeah.
Which is saying something about their own ability to self-express.
Yeah.
It's because, alcohol, and this is my perspective.
I didn't think you did it,
buddy. It might be time for you to
tend to these children. Speaking of kids, eh?
Yeah, speaking of
I've got a counter that overhangs, and my 4-year-old, every once in a while he dances around, and I think his eyes are half closed, and he just bashes into it. And he looks at me, he's like, "Mom, that hurt."
The first child is bubble wrapped 3 times, right?
Yeah.
So it's and everywhere is bagged and cushioned, and just everything is prepared so that no accidents can happen. Mm-hmm. The second, you've got a sort of little bit of you've got that experience, so you let a few things go. The third child is like It's like so.
Yeah.
A 3-year-old is like climbing all over the benches in the kitchen. I'm like, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
I've read those stories about those kids in the Indonesian rainforest where they live at the top of the trees and they never fall out just because they're wired to not go over the edge. And I think that the third kid is just like completely insane and totally out of control, but it's okay.
Yeah. You're not so worried about it.
You don't worry. You get over it or beyond it, and you just let. And those people who haven't had kids don't get it, right?
No.
They don't get it. And they're able to things that are just not important, like games or something. I'm not saying that computer games don't have their own element of cool to them. I'm just saying that if you compare computer games to kids, I mean, kids win, right?
Yeah.
If you go to kids, the kids kind of have to win most of the time, except in a few extreme situations. I don't know, bills need to be paid, or you've got some other urgent life emergency or priority. So I just don't get it. How can people live without that element in their world? It's almost like people are not breathing if they don't have children around. That's kind of how I see it. And I think we too often shelter children from it as well. I think children need to go to where their parents work. They need to understand what's happening in the world. They need to see how commerce functions. I think that is helping is understand what their role is in preparing society for the future is done through understanding the needs of the children and the next generation. So
well, I listened to a podcast the other day about like just being in the present, and when you can actually be in the present, you're actually stepping into your child state, where kids are very much in the present. They're not, until they hit a certain age, of course, but they're not looking to the future. They're not looking in the past. They're just focused on what is right now. Like they can look at a leaf and see so many different things, whereas we see a leaf and it's just a leaf, if you're not in the present moment.
The children focus with amazing intensity on whatever it is that they're when they're doing something. They're totally focused on that thing that they're doing. They're not thinking or aware of the consequences. I don't know, maybe it's kicking in for my son, who's now 8. He's starting to realize consequences now of things like, maybe this is not a good idea, or maybe this is dangerous, or somebody might get hurt or something like that. But children definitely do that. I had this business consultation a few weeks ago, and I was talking with the owner about the problems they were having with their product, and he's like, I'm not sure about the market, and I'm not sure about what the next stage is, or what's going to work. And why don't you go to a school, right? We take your product to a school, to a group of kids, ask the kids what they, right? Because that's, in one sense, that's the future market, right? The kids will grow into adults, and if you get a long-term plan, then you're going to get some ideas from them, and see what they say, see what they think, because as adults we experience in some ways tends to limit us in what we do and how we think, and taking new ideas becomes a little bit more complex for us as we get older. We tend to grow into more sort of fixed mindset patterns, and you find people who are not fixed in that way. Find people with no prejudice and ask them, see what they would do with the product, see what they would change, and it would, you know, his eyes lit up, and it was like a revelation to him. And I'm like, well, it's not difficult.
Yeah. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, and then I thought about it, and I realized he doesn't have children. He doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't. He's missed that element. Yeah,
Right.
and some people do, because we're all different with our different experiences.
Yeah.
That's the way that it goes.
Yeah.
So, what's your plans for the near future? What have you got coming up? You did some interviews, right? I saw on Instagram that there were some interviews posted.
Yeah, I've been doing a few more interviews, and my month is pretty much booked the rest of the month. I've got a whole bunch of different interviews, so that's fun. I've been doing that, and I've been doing I've been writing every day, a little bit every day, so put stuff together there. And other than that, I've just been spending time with my kids. My little guy goes to school this year, so in September he starts kindergarten, so I'm just trying to get as much time with him as I can before that happens. And I've been contemplating and fighting with myself over keeping him at home and schooling him myself, but I'm like, I don't know. It's a fight inside, because I want to, but at the same time I want him to socialize, and that's pretty much the only reason I want him to go to school, is to socialize. But yeah, I did register him, so I'm gonna lose this battle with my mind and just go with the status quo, even though I really don't want to. But at the same time, it's like it's just a struggle.
You just told me you really don't want to do it.
I don't. I want to keep him home, but
keep him
I
at
feel
home.
like
Keep him at home.
I just feel, I don't know, I feel like he needs to be socialized, but at the same time I don't, you know, like I know he doesn't need to. He's fine with other kids. He has tons of cousins. My husband has a huge family, so he's fine with them every time he goes there. He doesn't have social issues, because I take him to the grocery store. I take him everywhere I go, you know. That's what we do. But yeah, I just struggle with it, and I should just keep him home is what I should do.
Well, I can't say, because I don't know what's best, but I can tell you, you just gave me a really strong argument for keeping him at home. Okay.
Yeah.
You just gave me a powerful argument. So I don't hear an argument on the other side for
No. Yeah, I think like the biggest thing is you know, it would free up time for my other one, because he's a year and a half, but he doesn't need more time. Like, they both need equal time, right? Is what I think. So, and that, I don't know, it's definitely a struggle. It's a real struggle. Well, it's not, but I'm making it more of a struggle, I think, than what it needs to be. And I don't know, like, I don't feel like I'm doing it because other people say I should, because I really don't care at all what other people think. But I feel like it's just the thing to do, you know, but I'm not, for some things like vaccinations, they say it's a thing to do, but I don't believe in it, and I won't do it to my children. So, and I'm good on that, you know. So I don't know, maybe it's something I'm struggling, that maybe I struggle with the actual schooling him myself. Maybe that's where I'm a little hesitant on it. Not that I don't think I could do it, but maybe I question it a little bit because I haven't done it. Because I did send my other two kids to school from kindergarten up. So it would be something new. So that would be interesting, I guess. But I don't really think it would be hard. You know I could do it if I had to. So yeah, I think I need to
think about this.
I'm like in a full struggle, and my husband just supports whatever I do. So, you know, I don't have to argue with him. He's pretty good that way. He says, do what you need to do, except he believes that the socialization is important. He's a little worried about that.
Mm-hmm. that the studies show that socialization is important from the age of 12, right?
12 on.
Not too much age. You can look at, one of the best education systems is children don't start school. It's going on.
Buddy. Somebody's ready for a nap.
Very familiar.
Oh, he wants to.
Well,
He's upset because I took something away from him. This guy's a little protester.
I have two girls who constantly fight with each other. Constantly.
Oh, no.
Constantly. There's not a period of 10 or 15 minutes where they're not at each other for one reason or the other. And they both started,
Yeah. Equally guilty.
They're both equally guilty, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I've calmed one of them down, the other one will start up, and I just
Yeah, that's typical. My two girls were like that. It was like war, especially when they got older, like 12. In that age, it was like, oh my God, get me out of here.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I sort of imagine that they'll grow out of it. So I hope it's just one of those sort of phases. But they'll play together really happily for half an hour, and then they'll start to tease each other, and then they'll push each other, and then they just, you know what happened this morning? They both wanted to play the piano at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, you can both play together. And it's like, well, she doesn't play the same songs that I play, and she doesn't play it in the same way. And we go, can you take turns? No, they want to play. And they started hitting each other. Yeah. And it's just, oh, for God's sake. It's like, calm down. You don't have to hit each other. Take a step back. Let's take a breather. We'll find out. And they stuck at hitting each other. And I'm like, okay, just go for it then. Go on, just lay into each other. Go on, go on, just go on. Get a few hits, go on. You hit her in the head, and she'll hit you in the head, and then you'll get something heavier, and you'll clunk her with something heavier, and then you'll find something bigger and smash her, and then you'll both be crying, and they'll be like, and you swing at each other, and they hit each other a couple of times, and then they stepped back and sort of went, okay, where's this going?
Yeah.
That was a risk, but wouldn't recommend that to other parents.
Yeah. I did the same thing with my girls. It was like, if you're going to go, just go. Just get it done and get it over with. Enough with this power struggle. You guys one of you needs to be alpha.
Well, the crazy thing is that the 3-year-old is part of a kickboxing class that the mother goes to with the kids, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the older girl doesn't want to be involved in the kickboxing stuff. She just chooses not to do anything when they go to the class, and she sits at the side and plays and draws and stuff. But the 3-year-old is doing all this kickboxing stuff on the 5-year-old.
Oh goodness. Sounds fun.
Yeah. I think I posted on my Facebook page a picture of her at the training. But I'm not like 3-year-old girls should go to kickboxing. I'm not kind of like that. It's just there's a mothers and kids class, and the mothers and kids the kids pick up little things there. And I figure that self-defense is not a bad thing for girls to have. So if the boys are going to play rough, then there's no reason why the girls can't do the same thing. Anyway,